Hello, everyone, and welcome to It's Your Water. I'm glad you found us. Today's guest is Greg Shannon from Westfair Water in Bedford, New York, just north of New York City. Hi, Greg.
Mike, morning.
Thanks for being a huge fan of the podcast. You've chased me down many EWQA and WQAs, and I said, I got to get him on. And it's just a matter of when we could get you fit. I think the timing was perfect. I invited Greg because, you're really passionate about our industry. We want to inspire other young professionals to consider a career in the water quality improvement industry. And I thought you were a poster child. I hate that Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Q, I never fit that. It's just a person that was born at this time, is influenced somewhat by those things when they were born. I could never follow that stuff. So I'm not even going to call you a Gen whatever. You're just young guy.
Just a young guy with a passion for water,
Passion
baby.
for water. And that's it. And we want to put that passion out on this podcast. Hopefully someone cruises by and says, yeah, I want a career in water treatment because I've made a very successful living at it. It sounds like you're doing well too. So how did you, start in the industry? Just tell us a bit about you and your background. And you didn't come through traditional plumbing or engineering, right? So how did you actually find your way into the water treatment world of ours?
That's a great question, Mike. And yeah, looking forward to kind of getting into this. But yeah, no, I actually come from a traditional finance and economics background. So I studied a lot of statistics, econometrics, international finance when I was in college. And that's actually my traditional background. I was actually looking to go into banking and finance after I got out of going back to 2014. But the economy was still in really tough shape after the 2008 collapse. I went to go into the banking and finance world after college, but jobs were scarce and they wanted to have a lot of free internships, at the big banks, the JP Morgans, Chase, both Bank of America, Bear Stearns.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually come from a background in tennis. So my dad is a pro tennis coach for about 50 years. Had a lot of finance background, so has a lot of finance friends. And I thought I was going to be able to tap into that, which is why I got my degree in economics and finance, and then realized that I wasn't going to be working for free for a few years and hoped, of an offer down the line. So working an 80-hour work week was not super appealing to me for no money, especially in the city. And I was living about maybe an hour and 15 minutes north of the city back when I was maybe 21, 22, where my parents were. So I don't have a traditional plumbing or engineering background, but I do have a numbers background and an education, like a teaching background. I think if people are really, really good at understanding the numbers, because our industry is so numerically driven,
mm-hmm.
and really good at educating consumers, like I did when I was a pro tennis coach and a pro platform tennis coach, I think it was just a real, real sweet spot. And I kind of slotted into Westfair here, which I'm very thankful that I wound up finding this company through my dad, who actually ran into my boss, who Frank Magnotta, back in 2019. And then in 2020, I started with Frank. So I've actually been with him for 5 years now. And I'm also now one of his managers for the last year or so.
Oh, cool. It's funny, the path that leads people into the water. I came right out of college and Denise said, here's a desk and a phone. And I had to find the me in this industry to help be a mentor. And we'll talk about that. But I think you've found that this industry is very nurturing. And if we recognize your passion, we'll put the time and effort into people and customers. And it's just funny. Denise, who founded this company, worked for a Catholic school. She was a Catholic school teacher.
Oh, no, I did not realize that.
Yeah. We all find our way here and somewhat become lifers.
I like that term that you use, lifers, because I feel like for me, after, especially coming from a corporate background,
mm-hmm.
I don't know if I could see myself going back to that. I love the home service field, you know what I mean? And I wish I knew more about HVAC and boilers and electric, that kind of stuff. But I've really found my passion in water treatment and well pumps. My dad ran into Frank randomly at the golf course when Frank was there during COVID, during a trial membership. And that's how I got slotted into this. And then me and Frank started talking for about 6 months. And then the next thing you know, it's 5 years later. And I've brought on, just in the last 5 years, around 1,700 accounts for Frank here at Westfair. So I've successfully completed roughly 1,700 jobs in my tenure here. It's about, and to put it
Yeah.
in perspective, when we talk about some of this stuff, it's about maybe $5.5 million worth of sales and installations I've put into people's houses, which I'm very, very passionate about improving people's quality of life. Like that's what I'm solving problems, and improving people's quality of life has always been at the forefront of my tenure here. I like to solve problems.
Problems.
And you've talked about that a lot, Mike,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. And that's exactly what I try to impose on young people. You're in a job, whatever it may be, and it's just could be a hamster wheel. And you're just, what am I doing? Where here, you go visit the customer. They have a valid problem. It's almost like a blood test, right? You do that water analysis, and then you interpret the equipment to make their life better because it's ruining their plumbing. And nowadays it could be ruining their health. There it is. You install the equipment you believe in. You're a Connecticut dealer, they're a very good company. There's your result. And you get to see that. And that's really the kick that keeps me going after almost 40 years. And I love listening to your people's stories like yours. So,
No,
yeah.
I appreciate, and I think one for me is like when I had my own tennis business, basically. So I was
Mhm.
very entrepreneurial always, right? So I still have my tennis business where I am contracting out private lessons and group lessons and
Mhm.
selling merchandise, and that it's like my hobby on that I do like on the weekend. And, it kind of keeps me, moving and entertained. And I think for a lot of young people, I think the thing is, it's scary to start your own business, Mike. Especially in the water treatment business, it's hard. You need master plumbing license, you need warehouse, you need relationships. For me, I'm very intrapreneurial, which basically like I did not have to start from scratch. I went in and basically made a proposition and said, hey, this is my background. This is what I'm good at. Let me take this business and let me help with this business, learn it, the intricacies of it, and let me take it to the next level. How
Mhm.
can I be an intrapreneur, take an existing business and make it better, improve it, make it more efficient? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And that's for me what's very exciting. Just like it's no different than with the customer. I make them more educated. I help them with X, Y, and Z. And I do the same thing here. So I think it's very, very exciting that a lot of young people can go and with a certain amount of energy, enthusiasm, data analytics, and like a certain mindset can go and start their own business within a business.
That's cool. You know what? This is great. And that's why I have you here. That is a great tip for people listening. And entrepreneur, I love it. I love it. So it's not easy. It really is not easy. But our industry has somewhat low barriers to entry. If you look around, a lot of my customers, we have enablers, me and other people that, will sell you parts and pieces and get you going. But if you're ethical, we try to steer you in the right direction too. And that's important too. But what attracted you? I mean, coming from finance, I mean, what made you stick with the water treatment industry? What was like, I'm going to see if I can make this work. And I think we talked about it as a problem solving.
Yeah, but I think for me, it's like my brain, just from like having my economics and finance background, is very math and numerically oriented.
Hmm.
When Frank started sending me some information prior to me working back in maybe that 2019, and then 2020 obviously turned the whole industry on its head, even the way that we operated. I like the numbers, Mike. You know what I mean? As I started reading more about it and learning more about how I solve problems via numbers, numbers and people, those are the things that for me that I'm good and passionate at.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like the numbers don't lie. They always make very, very good sense. And if I can educate a customer and make the numbers make sense, it's always a path to a collaborative approach. So for me, and then that obviously, the more problems you solve, the more people you help, the more dollars you put in your pocket. I'm 33, turning 34. I have a pretty serious partner. We're looking to get engaged and potentially married next year and have kids within the next couple of years. So for me, it's nice that I didn't have to start, even though I have my own business here within the company, I
Yeah.
didn't have to start the company from the ground up.
Yeah.
Right. So like for me, it's just, I've made a lot of good contacts. I do a lot of local networking, meeting other contractors, and I love houses too.
Yeah.
For me as a kid growing up, like I always was helping my dad do stuff around the house. I loved it. My dad wasn't the most handy, but like I liked maintaining the house. I put a whole new pumping system in my parents' house. and nice filters and blah, 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 the whole nine. I did extensive water testing at their house because I grew up on well water for 25 years, you know.
Right.
I've had my own place for about 8 years now. But like, I just like doing stuff in the house. And I still like going over there and helping my dad. I mean, my dad's in his 70s now. I still like going over and changing the filter and helping maintain the house. So for me, like, I just like houses. And also, I think people that are naturally curious, Mike, have to be attracted to this stuff.
Yeah.
How do things work? Like, you're a curious guy, which is why for me, I always love picking your brain and listening to your stuff. You know what I mean? You're a naturally curious guy and you like to solve problems. Like, that's very exciting, I think, for a lot of people. But I think it takes a certain person to be able to take that and then run with it.
Yeah. You have to be curious. I mean, now, math aside, I'm not that great. People say, oh, Mike used to do all these number calculations. Well, it becomes formulas. It becomes routine. But a lot of it is how you scratch your chin and you look at the house and then you look at their piping and you're like, oh, it's going to be a challenge. Or, ooh, look at that kind of piping. Now I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do that.
Flow rates and certain, like, footprint always dictates application, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you're as good as the resources behind you too. So once you get the experience, I mean, that's why we're trying to relay it to people listening. It is a fun industry, and we're really tight, and everybody gets along. It's just a wonderful industry. So,
and I agree with you, Mike. Like, there are a lot. Like, you're right. It is super tight knit. Like, I've gone out of my way to talk to like other Connecticut dealers. Like, when I travel. When I go down to Florida, my dad and I, we go on a golf trip every year for about a week down in Lake Worth, which is kind of close to Fort Lauderdale and Orlando. There's a Connecticut dealer down there that I go and I spend a day with. I basically just put aside one of my vacation days and I just go and I spend the day with them. I see how they do it. I pick their brains. They've had some guys there that have been there for like 30 or 40 years, veterans like yourself. You're an amalgam, Mike, of the people you surround yourself with.
Of course.
So if you surround yourself with super, super smart people, just via osmosis, not reverse osmosis, you will naturally gain knowledge. So I have just basically put myself in a position where I've just surrounded myself with very, very intelligent people and use those resources like you and Bob Rohan has been like Kevin Osborne, Art Smith, Jim Hartman, Ryan Horner, guys from Blake and Franklin. And like, I also love well pumps. I love pressure and I love solving pressure issues, So like, just surround yourself with, doesn't matter what industry you're in, surround yourself with the best. Just as a byproduct, you will become better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 100%. Now, did you like have a mentor? You had to learn fast. You jumped into this. I mean, who are the key people that really, you just mentioned these guys, but I know you like to get involved with the Eastern Water Quality Association because it's a group of people with like-minded, and we all share. There's no real big secrets in this industry. It's not like pharma where, we're going to have the next drug that grows hair or, whatever, solves skin problems.
There's not that many patents to barriers to entry on the patent.
Yeah. So water is somewhat of a finite chemistry. So what we've done to it, but it's just improved with, well, things like, I hate to say it, AI and how we more efficient we do things. But there's a lot of guys with wisdom out there. I mean, was there any people that you could, you mentioned, but in this industry that you really have as a mentor that helped you out?
Sure. You know what? I really got big kudos to Frank, my boss, the owner of Westfair Water Systems. He's been in the business for 20 years. He's a real, real smart guy. I respect Frank a ton, mostly because he's always curious and learning more and adapting. He's a very, very good adapter, and he has shown me how to handle customers a certain way. So customer relations. He's also our master plumber, right? So he's taught me all about the different plumbing and how my brain should be working on certain things. Like, I actually just won a couple of huge bids for 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, and 3-inch respectively. I just won a couple of huge jobs for, apartment buildings or massive residences. You're talking 10 to 20,000 square foot houses, 8 to 15 baths, right? He's really stimulated my brain to thinking about how to think bigger, understand certain things. Frank has really been like my guiding light when it comes to learning this. He's been in the business maybe 20, 25 years. He's really passionate about plumbing and being hands-on. And that's a guy that he's the one who actually trained me for the first year that I was here. Yeah. I spent every waking second alive picking his brain. I would come up with 20 questions a day, Mike, and I would send it over to Frank and I would give him homework every day and be like, hey, this is what I'm curious about. Like, this is what we need to spend time on together today.
Mm-hmm.
And he just taught me as much as he could. And I just extracted. And now I teach our guys.
Use your
So I'm at that point
resources
now,
out there.
Yeah, use
That's
your
the point.
resources.
Use the people, recognize the people. It's good to see that, there is passion, young guys starting, because as we start aging out, and we look around, I was kind of refreshed at how there's a younger contingent in our industry. For anybody out there listening again that sees just a bunch of old bald white guys in there, it's not that anymore.
And the EWQA that I've been to, you have lots of young people that are coming, and it's like super refreshing to like pick their brains and learn from them and see how they're doing it, and hang out, just like, well, whether we're eating dinner or having a glass of wine or going to the classes together, it's just like, and also after like the last EWQA in Bethlehem that I saw you at, like I wound up connecting with a couple. Chris Gray is a good example, great guy. And like, he was just, and then we and him just had like some really, really good back and forth too. And and the other guy, I really got to give it up for that. Like, I think, and Frank helped really like on the plumbing side of things and understanding customers and application. On the science side, it was definitely Bob Rohan. That guy I have spent a ton of time with Bob teaching. He has taught me all kinds of science and the way that my brain needs to think certain ways about certain things. I mean, kudos to you and to Kevin Osborne, who have also helped me out with a lot of things. Like when I have questions, I have no shame and I have a ton of curiosity to go to the people and be like, hey, this is what I have. And like, I also like to shoot out a lot of the same questions to multiple people and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And just like the news, Mike, right? You got to get information from different sources.
Absolutely.
And make your own opinion.
I tell everybody that. Yep.
Yeah. And just like you say, there's so many different ways to skin a cat, right?
And I love cats. I would never skin one, but yes. Everybody knows that.
I'm a big cat guy too, Mike. So, you and I are cut from the same cloth.
See? Now, just wrapping this is part 1, by the way, everybody. We have a part 2 coming up, but what's your pitch to get people interested? I mean, we hear about skilled trade shortages out there. If you had to sell this industry and maybe a career path for young people, what would your proposal be?
Easy, Mike. Plumbers and electricians are the next millionaires in the next 10 years. Easy. If you want to make a ton of money and you have a good business-oriented personality, get into the trades. I think it's as simple as that.
Mm-hmm. Look what's happening there. You're getting layoffs. Okay. You get pulled in by Amazon or big corporate, and I could never work in big corporate. My wife had made a very good career at big corporate. There's people that can do that well, but if you're not into it, the trades are just dynamite, and you're not going to get laid off. If you're skilled, I'll tell you what, you could just carte blanche out there as far as a career path.
Correct. And then Mike, say if Tara and my partner, right, Tara and I wanted to move to Pennsylvania, I know a real good guy out there.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
But say we need to relocate. Like we live in Westchester. It's one of the most expensive counties in the entire country to live in, right?
Right.
And Tara and I are both very fortunate to like own our both little like our 1-bedroom condos. But like buying a house here is very difficult, Mike. If I wanted to, and she works in legal and healthcare, right? So if I wanted to pick up and say, if she was like, hey, Greg, the next opportunity for me is in Ohio, I would say, honey, fine. Like that's where Connecticut is. That's where Connecticut dealers are. Right. There are Connecticut dealers everywhere. There are Culligan dealers. There are Echo dealers. Like, I think for me, product, I'm not as passionate about the product as I am about the industry. Yeah. Listen, water softeners are water softeners at the end of the day, right? What I mean? Solving problems is solving problems, right? If I can go and solve problems somewhere else, I could still be good at it. I could still like it. And my skills are very, very transferable. You know what I mean? So I think that it's different when you're talking about corporate, right? Say you're in a certain role in corporate, like maybe that's a certain niche. Maybe there's no vertical movement there. You know what I mean? Maybe those skills aren't as transferable, but plumbing and electric and HVAC, they'll never going away. Everyone needs clean water. Everyone needs to use the bathroom. Everyone needs lights on. Everyone needs heat and cooling in their house. What I mean? I'm looking at a mini split right now. So like be in a Great Depression proofed industry. We had that status. What was it called, Mike, when COVID first came out? Not first responder.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
What's the name of it?
Essential people.
Essential. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
we still like people with like, what if the well pump died?
Yep.
Like people had no water. Like someone has to go and fix that pump.
Absolutely.
What if a filter's clogged? Whatever
What if
it
your
is, right?
dialysis center,
Exactly. Yeah,
people
for
are,
you, right?
yeah,
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 pharma, and you do like a lot of pharma and ag and that kind of stuff. So like,
everything.
whereas yeah, everything. So yeah, I think that it's a really, really economy proofed. If I
Yeah.
can use that verb, it's a really resilient business to be in.
Yeah. Well, cool. This is the end of part 1. I hope everybody enjoyed this. We're going to get back with Greg on part 2. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks, Greg. We'll get back to part 2 in a second. Trust the frog, everybody.
Sounds good, Mike. Trust the frog.
Yeah.